Hi, this is Jared Dunn. I'm sorry I don't recognize this number.
Jared, come here now.
Jin Yang? So, what exactly did you... Oh.
The witch lost his mind.
Guilfoyle, you smoke?
I kept mulling that sep and shit. I didn't leave a bit of my coat on that fridge. No remnants, nothing. So how do they know? Shit. They make smoke detectors. I think there's one in the kitchen. Those fuckers are listening.
Jin Yang, are you copying all those companies for the Chinese markets?
Oh, no.
Fuck you, Steppen.
Good morning. I love that show. There's never not an opportunity to pull out the Jin Yang stuff. I would have been going mad with the Jin Yang gifts if it wasn't, it's fraught. When you're a white lady, you got to be very careful, especially when, I'll talk a little bit about that today. About sort of, you got to be mindful of your position in the world and the context in which you are operating and who you're helping. I've talked about that before. But good old classic Silicon Valley, Jin Yang, brilliant. Anyway, I've been wanting to fly with all those gifts all week. It's absolutely fantastic. Okay. So there's going to be little bits of serious, little bits of like not so serious because, you know, everything's just a bit ridiculous. Do you like my coffee mug? Like I said, everything is very serious and everything is also a bit fucking ridiculous. Pulling out my coffee mug. I bought this in 2017 and it just sat and I was going through the cupboard and it was sitting there in the back of the cupboard and I was like, time to bring that one out. Anyway, so it's pretty funny because I said to, it's only been like, what, 2 weeks? He's only been president for like 2 weeks or something like. And I said to my son yesterday, I got home, I said, oh my, because I'd been listening to all of the executive orders, all of the funding stuff, all the things that, you know, all I normally do. And I was like, every day is like what Trump did now. Remember that last time? It was just like, what's he done now? Every day. And he's come out swinging, hasn't he? But also I said, oh, good. Only 1,430 to go days of every day being what the fuckwit did and how he fucked up and what chaos have we got. It's fucking, anyway. So just so you know, that number is quite disturbing, isn't it? We've got a long road ahead of us. 1,400 and how many days? When did he start? I don't know. Fucking days blend into each other. But 1,440 days to go of this shit. It's going to be a long road. We're going to have a sense of humor somehow. We're going to have to try and have some fun. Also, because a lot of what I talk about is very serious and dangerous stuff. Like we're talking about war. We're talking about, you know, people suffering. You know, that is very much not funny. Okay, very much. Don't mistake anything where I'm being a dickhead with my props. Don't take any of this shit as me not recognizing the seriousness of all of this. I fucking do. And that's, but also like I can't, our bodies can't handle it. You can't handle it. You can't, we're supposed to, the whole purpose of his whole MO is to exhaust us to the point of fatigue where you roll over. We're seeing it already, right? I talked about this in the last stream where, you're just seeing people capitulate, mostly because the outrage doesn't work. And I think that's, like I said, in defense of all of the sort of people who were calling him a fascist sort of 6 weeks ago and then all of a sudden working with him, they're also not stupid people. Like, they've got no soul and they've got no integrity and they've got no fucking spine, but at the same time, understand the strategy. They're not stupid. They understand that screeching didn't work. So maybe, you know, cut people a bit of slack. They're trying to navigate this thing. What is normal today and what we have normalized is far from normal. And I remember actually, going to go on a fucking tangent because that's what I do. I remember the second week of the pandemic, okay, my son with the masks and the stuff. And again, I'm not anti-mask. You can go back. My record is there. What I've said is there. I made jokes and I was like, you need to give people a fucking second to adjust to things. And because, you know, I think people forget, like right out of the gate, like we, in the space of, you know, a few days had to go from people who cover their faces walking into shops, like dangerous and scary and, you know, all of that sort of stuff, to everyone covering their faces. And people who aren't covering their faces, it's like, you needed a minute, okay? And, you know, it's like I think my frustration a lot of the time is that people aren't given the space that they need or the opportunity they need or the time to come to to meet you where you're at. Like, I think I've learned that I think because I studied politics, right? As a young kid, I've learned the hard way that like, you can't expect everyone to have I expect people to read a fucking basic thing. Hence my previous streams rants, right? But you can't, this is a core principle of charity, but the principle of humanity is the one that I focus on as well, which is that you've got to assume that being human, okay, if you actually are, this is for activists particularly, that other people haven't lived your life. They have not had your experiences. They don't know, like about certain things. Nobody has all of the information. And just because you've been consuming this one thing and it's your interest, it doesn't mean that other people, first of all, think that interest is a priority or a focus. And it doesn't mean that just because it's not their focus that they don't care. It's just that we can only care about like one or two things and do it well. Okay. And this has been obviously this is an ongoing problem with the left, where single issue activists, like they have no patience or understanding that people aren't just like, sell your ideas. Are you in sales or are you not in sales? You don't just screech at people and try to trick them into an MLM. Anything that is a big ticket sales thing, it takes time to sell. It takes anything that was a big kind of client. The year cycle there is often, the sales cycle is often like a year or 2 years, sometimes 5-10 years, which is, I have people where I've helped them 10 years ago, and I made an imprint, and they get in touch with me, and I go, well, yeah, wow, goodness me. You got to have a long sales cycle. And unfortunately, when you're in politics, you're in sales and advertising, and you've got to be mindful of the fact that you are representative of a product in the form of an idea, okay? And screaming at people doesn't work, okay? Like screaming for fun, having a rant, doing that sort of thing. But when you're actually engaging in a serious issue, humor has a role to play. I'm talking about like being abusive, okay, or being ridiculous or childish or whatever, right? And I know that this is sort of, I'll get to that, because the AI thing, again, is just a lot of what I talk about. A lot of these things are symptoms of my broader, and there's overarching themes around this stuff, around how to persuade, how to, what we're up against, the structural stuff. Now, this DeepSeek AI thing, as funny as it is a classic example of what I've been talking about how propaganda works, especially online, understanding whose interests are at play, especially in tech. Okay, so this is not just about, like everyone, I've been laughing my ass off at the whole open AI thing. So for the unacquainted who don't know anything about what's going on, okay, I'm going to try and explain the joke to you. Okay. So for the last, there's always been a space race. Okay, so I'm just wondering whether I should start with what happened or start with the context. Give me a sec. I should probably plan my streams, hey? I should probably write them. Yeah, whatever. They're actually better when I'm riffing. I've noticed that they're better when I just am relaxed. So anyway. So what happened was, OpenAI are an AI company. Now, I'm not going to go into how LLMs work, what AIs are. I have covered that at length. You can look that up. I'm not a news source nor an educational source in this instance. Okay, it's something that you can go anywhere for, because people are explaining it. So what you've got is basically in tech, a history of tech bros for the last, however many years. So since social sort of didn't work out the way that everyone intended, and it's kind of imploding on itself, these tech companies, they need so the mindset within tech and the culture within tech is something of constant, massive leaps, exponential growth, trying to, constant returns for shareholders, right? But the expectation. So back in the when Facebook and Twitter and all those things first went public, they were everyone got paid big amounts of money, okay, when they went public, okay, and that set an expectation that tech was this new big darling of I suppose investors and the stock market and all that sort of stuff. And there was this whole culture of massive growth. So if it wasn't going up, there was something, like something wrong. I'm waffling. Takes me a minute as usual. Okay. Where's my drink? Deciding whether I should drink out of the Trump mug or the dick. Either or. Anyway, so for anyone who shows up, I've got my drink bottle. Same. Massive cock. No, so there's been this whole, and Facebook only had one good product. Okay, the rest of it, Google only had one good product, and so in order to continually achieve that growth, right? I'm really glossing over it, but in order to keep continuing to provide shareholder value and meet the expectations of VCs who had, everyone was just expecting this bubble to continue, and it was just getting out of control. Just this constant growth. The only way that there's only two ways that you can improve like the speculative value, so-called, value of your company. It's got nothing to do with the value of a product. So like traditionally with a stock market, the original idea was that shareholders actually play a role in determining the value of a company. Like, even though I'm a lefty, I don't necessarily oppose the stock. I'm not really again, because I understand like what people mean when they're critiquing capital for a start. Like the actual stock market itself, I'm not necessarily. It can be a check on overvaluation, dishonesty. It does. They're letting certain things. Letting the market decide certain things. There are some things that you can't have a fucking a drum circle or meeting to decide. Okay, the market can help decide the value or determine. So, there is a role that the stock market plays, but that's been detached from that for some time, especially with tech. So, especially like you look at something like Tesla or all of these tech companies, like they are somewhat decoupled from their actual value and the value they provide to the user. Okay. So Facebook had a really valuable product, and the valuable product that Facebook provided was targeted advertising. Okay. So Facebook and these companies were selling a win-win where people shared their stories, they connected, it was ad supported, but advertisers, like, I still believe that these things are achievable, and I can talk a little bit about that because people do ask me a lot about what I think the solutions are. As much as I'm being a dickhead here, I do have a lot of ideas about how these things can work. I was talking to Paul last night about if there's one thing that I still believe and I still think we can crack, which is that artist community connection and artists building their own businesses. Like that's something that I've been passionate about for my whole career. Like that's why I do what I do and did what I did, which was to actually achieve that, right? And what we can do is look at what's happened here and look at the mistakes and try to do better next time, right? And do a post-mortem on all of these things and try to evolve and try to figure it out. It's just that now the barrier to entry is so high on any kind of innovative tech. The only real strategy that you can employ as a founder is an exit strategy where you sell it to one of the big four, right? But anyway, that's a side thing. So with tech, Facebook had one great product, but because they needed to pursue perpetual growth, they either needed to create new products that were innovative and valuable, and that's unusual for, like, most good companies do one good thing and have one great product. Not being content with just being a great product, because there's no such thing as enough in the stock market. There's no cap. So perfectly good businesses. So what you're seeing here is perfectly good businesses who were great. They were great for a decade. The reason they were great for a decade is because they had value. The value of Facebook and Google and Twitter even can't be understated. They're extremely valuable to people as tools, and they needed to be content with enough. So rather than being content with a sustainable business where everyone made a lot of money and good money, they had to pursue this constant growth because of venture capital, the usual shit, constant growth, okay? And that's the problem. That's why if they're in Web 3 or anything like that, I think one learning we can get from Web 2, okay, Web 2.0, is to not go public. And I'm trying to crack a model. Oh, and you know, there's things we can do differently, and you can learn from it. And I'm not someone who ruminates on the past. I'll talk about the past. I've got a lot of information and stories and all that sort of stuff. But I tend to be someone who goes, all right, well, this is almost Marxian of me to go, all right, well, that happened. All right, how do we make it so that doesn't happen again? How can we structure these tech companies and businesses so that they don't, so that they can be done better? And that's where, again, people will reduce it to it's capitalism. You can't. It's like, it's not that simple. Okay, it is. Yes, when you're like an undergrad and everything is reduced down to capitalism, it's like, well, no, because the market does do some things well, and it does go in this direction. But there are things that you can do. I'm a social democrat. I believe that you can tinker and regulate the market in ways where it operates more efficiently, right? Actually, what you're doing is enforcing efficiency as promised, okay? And yeah, anyway, whole thing. Keynesian shit. So anyway, so what they did was they just started gobbling up everything because they had to keep getting these profits for VCs and shareholders. They just weren't content with having I've always just been content with having a business that makes me a living and I get to do cool shit and I get to help people. Like, that's always been enough for me. And that's the thing, is that if you're someone who is content with enough, like that's where you should be. If you're just someone who's always about more rather than enough, you got to know that there's no such thing. There's no end point. This is how we end up here. Like Elon Musk, not content with pretty much fucking literally everything, is still miserable. And that, I've said that before. So anyway, so that's kind of the context. And so AI, okay, now, quibbles with the word AI or anything like that aside, there's been this big hype, okay, branding large language models and generative models, right, or generative AI as artificial intelligence. And so what this hype has done is they've got that, again, once you start to see through how fear is used and narrative is used to fuck you and rip you off, and it's how it's been abused. Hang on, let me. Yep. Okay. I do actually, for those who, I haven't mentioned this for a while, but I do actually, I'm a former clutterer, and so sometimes my words will fall. My brain works, 10 times faster than my mouth, so sometimes I'll just. Elon Musk does it too, but he's got the resources to fix it. But anyway, Elon Musk is a clutterer as well. But anyway, and as is, I think Peter Thiel is a clutterer and stutterer as well. So like, I as much as people go give them shit, I try not to give people shit for that because I've got the same thing. But anyway, be patient with me. And I'm not a news source. I'm just riffing. We'll get there. So basically, they needed to find AI became this new big hype thing. So they've reached a ceiling. Okay, I think with about 2015, I think post-Trump, especially I think when people started to, and this is just my perspective, there's people who monitor this more closely. This is just from my point of view as sort of looking at it anthropologically or sociologically, sort of these key moments in internet history, so to speak, okay, where the election of the fuckwit in charge, the fuckwit in chief, in 2016, sort of broke some shit open. Like, I think people forget that the hype around social media and Web 2.0 and data, a lot of that stuff, people were kind of questioning it already before Trump, but Trump really made people go, whoop. Oh, okay. that was a big shock, I think, to the industry, which was, again, people were, this is where I think that's the turning point for me. And that's why there was so many books written about it and why people keep, going back to the election of Trump. Even though, like, it was like Obama and the Obama campaign and even the campaigns before that, where they really started to use these like persuasion scores and, marketing funnels, and like they gathered your data and, assigned you a persuasion score and then targeted ads at you using sort of Facebook and stuff. Like, they were all doing that. And one of the funny things, and you'll see this with AI, is like they'll say that it's like, well, everyone is doing it except me, and everyone who's doing it is wrong except for the way I do it. Remember last stream where I said nobody's ever like the bad guy and nobody's ever David Brent? We've got this problem with tech where everyone thinks that they're the good guy and they're the ones that are doing it the right way and the ethical way, and they kind of rather than looking at it as an entire industry where nobody's really questioning their practices. People are just going, oh no, the bad guys do this. Even though those tactics are the same, they're identical tactics. They're all like an ISIS radicalization funnel is identical in terms of the tactics and the form and like the manipulations and all those sorts of things as your average marketing funnel. Okay, they're all like the radicalization funnels are identical to Obama's ladder of engagement. They're identical things. Okay, in terms tactically, and there's a lot of things like that where how you use a tool matters. It's that whole guns don't kill people. People do, right? That shit. I happen to believe that maybe people shouldn't have access to guns, right? Again, that comes down to a worldview, and that's where the debate happens. But Trump really did blow everything wide open. And this new phase where Elon Musk also owns Twitter, owns the Everything app, is a new phase of that. It's a new accelerant poured on this whole problem, and we don't know how it's going to go. But anyway, so but people really started to go, whoa, okay, this guy. They used data. They did all of the dark patterns, all of the sort of unethical tactics, their sort of symbiosis with Fox News. People started to become aware of some of the blind spots that existed in the industry. They sort of got spooked away from social. But then then there was this new race happening in the background around machine learning, okay, and AI. Now, machine learning is very broad. But it basically, it controls your content moderation as well. So a lot of these things a lot of it links together with Twitter and content moderation and who gets censored, who doesn't, false positives, platform manipulation, all of these big fucking things. So AI became this big new product hype thing, okay. But they weren't necessarily pitching it to consumers. They were pitching it to like the bad guys directly. Like the mask has just come off and off and off. Like the mask it's not even slipped anymore. It's been dropped on the floor and stepped on and discarded, and it's like there's no mask anymore. It's just pure fucking data, harvesting data for everybody all the time. And artificial intelligence was the most extreme way to abuse that data. I don't even know if I'm making sense. But anyway, so there's been this race where it's really weird because it's all linked together and it's all geopolitical. And it's also ridiculous because people are just struggling to define. It's hard to know where to focus your energy on these things because it is actually quite big. So with the tech industry, they needed to find a new thing to constantly hype. And because people they sort of called it AI, even though, there's no artificial intelligence, right? What they've done, I see through this. I don't know why people aren't more skeptical of this shit, but every time someone leaves something like OpenAI and they're like, it's too sentient, I'm afraid. And it's like, what? Bullshit. Doesn't exist. You're just saying that so you can get your severance package. And it's like, maybe I'm too cynical, but OpenAI, they started with this idea that OpenAI would be like a not-for-profit, open source AI research kind of think tank type of thing. Okay, Elon Musk invested in it early, as did others. Okay, so they then turned and made it for profit. Okay, and started. But over time, because of the hype, they've actually sort of become. It's kind of gotten comical. So the thing that I need to articulate is that the AI hype bros, okay, are usually not people who work in tech for a start, okay? They're usually bottom feeders who are looking for the grift. Now, again, if you know your internet history, there's always been that layer of people, the get-rich-quick people, okay? You've got your affiliate marketers, okay? They don't sell any product. They just scrape a commission, okay? They don't build a product. They don't build social media platforms. They don't code, but they build a business on top of someone else's shit. Okay, like social media influencers. I mean, that's the most stupid and reductive version of that. Like, but there are people who are just like they bounce from thing to thing to thing to the next thing, but they're at the bottom level. So all of the people who are saying that AI can code for you, they're a shit coder. Okay. They're not developing AI. A lot of AI commentators are not engineers. Okay. They're people who are looking at how they can abuse API to get money quick out of people. Okay. So that's always going to be there with the tech. But a lot of the hype has become somewhat of their undoing because everyone is just saying, like acting like this somehow is like a godly thing. It's basically just, a powerful autocorrect. It's a statistical, it spits out shit based on statistical likelihood that this is what you need, okay? And it can be correct. If there's a lot of information and broad consensus, then, it will probably get there. But if it's not, then it'll make stuff up because it goes, well, I'm 90% sure about this thing, but I'm like, I don't have much information. So I'm just going to do the thing that's like most likely, and it's like a 58% thing, like that, the score of 38 thing with Grok that I talked about the other day, like how it works. So in that, now forgive me if I'm not making sense. I'm trying to find my feet, but it's just so what happened with OpenAI is that over time they've been like, because they saw an opportunity. Okay, everyone sort of started hyping. There's this massive bubble, massive bubble. But also artists cracking the shits about it. Okay, now again, not really elevating the conversation, not really understanding how it works. And a cottage industry pops up of people who are AI critics, who are just, I don't like it. And also some of the critique is substantive. I do try not to be that person. I can be. Like obviously the wholesale scraping of the internet is like unconscionable. However, it's done. You can't put toothpaste back in the tube. They did that. Okay. So basically what they did was they scraped the whole internet. So again, ruminating on what they did and is done, and you can't undo it unless you, again, you can, but you've got to find a solution that works with what is, not with something that happened 10 years ago and you don't like it. That's the wrong way to go about politics. You got to be pragmatic about things and realistic about, like, you're not going to get these guys, anyway, that's a whole thing. So think about toothpaste in a tube. You can't put it back in. That's training data with AI. It's been done. It happened. They need to pay a remedy, or they need to pay damages, or they need to pay dividends. They need to find a way to get that money back in the hands of creatives. But you're not going to get so making your whole day about yelling about like training data is not necessarily the most productive way to go about it. Now, You can. I'm not telling you how to spend your day. I just don't think it will be effective. Anyway, so obviously you've got the problem, like the reason why I had problems with OpenAI and AI in general was the environmental harms, the fact that they were misleading, deliberately misleading, engaging in misleading and deceptive conduct around the product. They were saying that it could do things that it couldn't do. Now, part of that was the hangers-on who say it's a magic fucking machine where you can make 30 grand. Like, a lot of that is the idiots who on the internet who are always going to be the exploiters and the sort of bottom feeders of everything. Like, that's just normal. Like, that AI commentators who are using AI marketplaces, like the OpenAI marketplace, to make a little bot are not necessarily going to, I'm in a thing. It's all right. I'll come back later. I'll text you. Sorry. There's my neighbor. What else was I? I can't remember where I was at. Oh yeah, the bottom feeders. So like they're always going to be there. Okay. So there are always going to be people who are like on to the next thing. They're sort of, you know, like the way they killed NFTs as a technology with their sort of get rich quick shit. They'll be on to the next thing. Social media managers. You know, they're just people who are just bottom feeders, right? They're not actually building anything. They're just, you know, there. So the hype, these hype guys sort of are an important part of this, because if they'd been honest about the tech and it not being like this magic god box, okay, that can just instantly do everything, people would be more measured about the conversation. Okay, so what's funny is that they sit there and they've been going, no, we're definitely going to have, they've been kicking this can down the road. We're going to have artificial general intelligence next week. I did it. Did it last night. Where is it? Tomorrow. It's coming tomorrow. And they've been doing that for like the last couple of years. Oh, it's coming tomorrow. Okay. All right, dog. Well, where's your hope? Oh, dog ate my. Okay. Okay. All right. Sure. All right. Let me know when it's done. Okay. We're not even remotely close to AGI. Okay. But if they hadn't sort of become victims of their own hype, people would have gone, oh. But then I think that what OpenAI in particular, and this is why like Sam Altman is a fucking lolcow at this point, where it's like he saw that he could say, he saw an opportunity where he could say, I'm scared of this thing. We're achieving artificial general intelligence. Oh, we need guardrails. Well, this is so good. This is so good and powerful. It's dangerous. I'm scared. Like this. Okay. And they go, but what we need, because what's happening here is that China has won too. And what we're going to do, we can't have China do it. That would be bad. That would be terrible, because like who's gonna do the world peace? Yes. This is like, it's the new nuclear power. It's the same as that. It is exactly the same. This AI thing is definitely an existential threat. Yep. It's an existential threat. And we need money. Need money. Money, please. Money. Billions. We're going to need billions and trillions and quadrillion dollars. Please. It's so scary. I need a quadrillion dollars. And the AGI is coming in a few months. I promise. And the next one. I promise. The next one. Okay. Even though anyone who knows anything knows that they've hit a ceiling in terms of like the power, the two big barriers to fucking AI even being remotely fucking achievable, up until, you know, again, remotely achievable, is the power. Okay, without some massive breakthrough with like nuclear fission and like, or hydrogen or something like that, or like clean energy, you can't. It's dead in the water. Or quantum computing, which a lot of people have said. I think part of the reason why Nvidia's stock dropped, I believe, and don't quote me on this, but I believe was because he also said that we're probably 15 years away from a like practical, reasonable, accessible quantum computer. So like it's like anyone who is, anyway, So anyway, so the whole thing, you've got to understand that this hype thing has always been hype, and they've always said, I'm so afraid of it, that it's so dangerous. I need money. I need money. Because China's going to beat us. So there's that whole thing, money. Money, please. Money. And this is why, and, you know, they did the same thing with like, and a lot of this is because they've got these like think tanks, okay, that are doing sort of anti-Chinese propaganda that works in the background, like with the TikTok ban. Talked about this Red Scare propaganda and how I got the phone call and stuff from these guys to spread anti-Chinese propaganda, which I said, no, it's not true. I can't verify that it's true. Fuck off. I see what you're doing. Like the phone call that I got in like 2020 about how TikTok are spying on everyone and all that stuff. It's like, they're not. They're using cookies like every other fucking tech company. It's all boilerplate stuff. It's industry standard stuff. They're not doing anything. Australian Strategic Policy Institute are funded here. They used to be funded by the Defence Department, but they are now funded by all of China's adversaries and defence companies like Lockheed Martin, Raytheon, and also, guess what? They're funded by Microsoft and Oracle. What are the odds? Also, the Taiwanese government, various people who have an interest in being anti-China. So they fund this think tank, and it was funny because that is relevant, because they've been going like this, money. But a lot of that money is coming from these think tanks who are doing research where they're like, China's beating us in everything. Money. China's a threat. Money. Right? China's a threat, and you need to securitize them. And what they are, they're a threat, national security threat. What we'll do, oh, they're so scary. It's a threat. Money. We need to like ban this, you know, like the CHIPS Act. Okay, so like in the United States, they made it so because this threat of China, that there is very little evidence other than the fact that China is just competing in the global marketplace at the free market. You know, the jury's out on who's going to win this one. Okay, I think I know who. But again, I'm glossing over stuff, but I'm just, you know, it's tricky when you've got lots of complexity, trying to be entertaining, lots of thoughts at once, and trying to get to the fucking point. So, OpenAI have been very much in bed with, and other AI companies, obviously Anthropic and Amazon, all those like tech companies are all in bed with fucking military and like military as well. Okay, the State Department of Defense, but Amazon has a fucking massive dedicated like office, like literally in West Virginia near the White. Like that's a whole military operation there. You need top security clearance to fucking even work at that Amazon office, right? That's how embedded these guys are. And so, and what they do is they fund these think tanks that scare you about China, so they get more funding. Oh, TikTok is spying on us all. Money, please. TikTok is spying on us all. Ban their access to chips. Ban TikTok. Oh yeah, Zuckerberg just happens to agree with that because it's his competitor. Like once you start to see that pattern, right, that's the whole fucking pretext, which is that they're all sort of spreading this bullshit, shared interests. Like it's funny how you see the same names just popping up everywhere once you start to read certain things and you know who's who. It's like you'll see like there was the Sputnik moment, right? Someone said it was, Mark Andreessen said it was a Sputnik moment. And then all of a sudden everyone's repeating that. The Australian newspaper here, Murdoch Press repeating it. Democrats, was it Chuck Schumer who repeated it? Fucking corporate media's repeating it. They're all saying it's a Sputnik moment. And it's like, well, yeah, the Sputnik moment, well, that's different because the Sputnik moment didn't result in private companies getting the money. It resulted in a massive public program. But anyway, in the form of NASA. Anyway, so that aside, I don't expect them to actually know any history. I mean, they don't even know who the Consumer Financial Protection Bureau is, and I fucking do. So anyway, I'm not a billionaire, and I know that. Anyway, so basically what happened was OpenAI have been going, we need handy billies of dollars. We don't need $1 billion. We need $1 trillion. All we need is $1 trillion. because China. And these think tanks, it's just so fucking ridiculous. And so then China, who having already been securitized via TikTok, like if you understand the TikTok ban at a sort of geopolitical level, you know that this narrative has been pushed for some time, that there's somehow spying on you, plays on all the xenophobic fucking stuff, right? All of your biases about China being sneaky or whatever, okay? Possibly, I don't know. I can't verify either way, but one thing I do know is that these think tanks have a certain interest. That's all you can focus on. You can't focus, there's things that you don't know, and there's gaps, and these guys exploit your gaps in knowledge and rely on your prejudices, okay? They lean on that. But one thing you can know is the think tank that launders these stories are the people who are quoted in the Murdoch press, who have a system, who have a shit ton of money from Lockheed Martin, Raytheon. They're the same people that have been, at war with pro-Palestinian protesters and all that sort of stuff. Because again, military shit. Okay, they've developed this tool that measures progress in the technology sector that the media then report, but then they report that the media report it. So it's like a two-way thing where they're constantly just, it's like the snake eating its own tail is literally this whole sort of media think tank process. And you've seen this like time and time. But the Australian Strategic Policy Institute, whenever you see ASPI, you know that that's coming from Defence. Okay, that's coming from Lockheed Martin, Raytheon, Microsoft, Oracle, Google, various other anti-Chinese countries, so Taiwan and others as well. And again, I'm not saying that that is a good or bad thing. I'm just saying that provides context to the messaging. And it's like, so that context matters because OpenAI, billions of dollars going, we need $1 trillion. No, we need a zillion. What we need is a zillion. So everyone's like, okay, let's invest in all of this, not green energy, I might add. So it's part of this push for nuclear, part of this push for fucking, more dirty power, particularly oil, all that sort of stuff. Not green energy, but they're all trying to get their money. And that's where you get into sort of the Minerals Council and AI and these sort of dark money interest groups. They have a shared interest in you not looking into sort of the patterns there, okay? Because you've got the Minerals Council and the nuclear lobby pushing for our power needs because this big, sentient, fucking scary, godlike AI needs lots more power. We need to invest in nuclear power because only nuclear power can be, that's the narrative that they go. So anyway, but then China just goes, hey, I'm going to release, wait, it's not even China. It's just a guy in China. As far as I know, he's a hedge fund guy and he just did it and he's, released it. They were working on it and then they released it. And the innovation is that you can run it. I mean, you can theoretically run it on a Raspberry Pi, but it runs like dog shit, right? I could run AI on my old MacBook Pro. It would just take 6 hours for a prompt. It's like you can technically run anything on anything. It's just how long it takes, right? And that's how these large language models work, is that it's how fast. So the reason why, and again, I could be wrong, not an engineer, there's a point where I tap out, but one of the biggest limitations is just more how much it can hold. So that's like its overall capacity in a session, or so to speak, right? And how fast it can process that information. Okay, so it's just sort of limited by that. Those are the big sort of limitations. But as I understand it, the actual technology, like the concept of the technology, obviously it's been refined, but that's been limited by this is technology that was developed in the 70s. Like it's something that can scale with increases in hardware and that sort of stuff. But the actual core principles, are the same, as sort of the older tech. Anyway, I've digressed in a massive way. So the Chinese came up with something. So OpenAI have been going, this is scary, promising AGI for fucking, how long have they been promising this shit for now? Like easily 2 years. Oh, it's so good, it's scary. Elon Musk, same thing. So scary. I'm scared of it. I am spooked. I'm so spooked by this power. Oops. I'm so spooked. Money, please. It's like, it's so good. It's scary. Money. And so what really happened here is that the Chinese went, well, you don't really need that money. They did it on a faster chip that can technically, so they've been starting to look at like the optimal kind of hardware for this thing. And it's about, you can get, for about six to 10 grand, you can just build something that is basically the same speed as OpenAI. So so in the back end, the Chinese have, this guy, the relationship with the CCP, well, as far as I can see, all the CCP does is like regulate, like, again, it's how you spin it. Like, Australian companies have to comply with the Australian government and they have to share information when it's requested. Like, I don't understand how it's any different really, other than the fact that it's just red scare shit. But, you know, potato, correct me on that if I'm wrong. I'm not an expert on the Chinese legal system, but basically it looks to me like there's no more access that the CCP get than the Five Eyes countries get. Like, the Australian government and the US government and every other government can access any data that they fucking want. They've all got backdoors into everything. Like, that's no different. Like, that's what so anyway. And also the Chinese just regulate their businesses harder and actually hold them to account, like, ethically more, as far as I know. And also the paradigm around copyright, because copyright is sort of, a capitalist idea to begin with, right? So anyway, so it's just a different paradigm. So don't get me, again, I'm not a expert in China by any stretch, but I just from what I know and understand to be true and what the interests are, I'm more inclined to think that those interests have interests in bullshit about. Always just be mindful of who's paying for what narrative, okay? Like, you can't trust the Murdoch press as far as you can throw them, especially when it comes to China, because ASPI, the Australian Strategic Policy Institute, look them up, are directly funded by all of these people, and they've got everything that they write ends up in the Australian, and then they quote the Australian as the authority. They do these fucking studies that always somehow land on, we need more money. We need more money for all of our shit. And it's like, okay, well, that seems a bit suspicious. That's all I'm saying. So when the TikTok ban stuff happened, and I've got to write about this. I just haven't had time. I know that they're trying to push this stuff because I've been approached to do that stuff. They desperately want people to be mouthpieces for, this narrative that China is somehow sneaky and a threat. And given the source, I'm inclined to not trust it. And again, it could be true, but given the source, I don't trust it. I need more information. Not just because we told you so. That's not thinking. So anyway, so some guy in China, I'm not clear about his own like history. Really, I know he's a hedge fund guy, and I know that there's a bunch of other stuff. It's so hard to actually understand what's true. Like, it's so hard. Because I can't read. I really need to learn how to read fucking Mandarin or something, and because I don't trust any of it. I'm always happy to talk to anyone who actually knows and isn't paid by these fucking military contractors and shit. I trust sort of Kevin Rudd's probably a good source of that stuff. Bob Carr and Paul Keating are usually good like political sources. They usually see through this stuff. Bob Carr's been a big critic of ASPI for a long time, and as has Keating and those guys. So I do, there are some people that I trust to at least tell some of the truth. But again, I don't know. So I just want to qualify that I don't know. So, but the narrative that we're saying is that, China has come up with basically a cheaper, more efficient, open source version of the OpenAI. Now, the cope has been fucking amazing. I love it. Like I joked, yes, I was like, it's amazing how, like, and when you watch tech bros and what fuckwits they are, like the Schadenfreude is fucking, I love it. Schadenfreude, I love it. I get injected into my fucking veins because these guys have been off the rails for way too long. They've been, I've said, you know, they need reeling in because they have just been hyping and hyping and hyping and hyping, and also not just doing hype, but abusing, attacking, you know, threatening, like overtly threatening anyone who goes, you know, I have doubts. I've had like tech guys who have literally just, it seems to be a attack on their personal integrity, just merely saying that AI is not art and AI is not what you think it is. And I have an ethical problem with tangible things, and that is a bridge too far. You can't even, it is so, they make it so much of their personality and identity that even talking about it in a critical, even asking like critical questions about ethics and whether this is like, whether it's worth boiling the oceans for a fucking, you know, a machine that can generate titty anime and like bad art is like worth it. Like it's like, well, is the cost of AI currently worth it? It's like, that's just a standard fucking conversation. But obviously these guys are heavily invested in selling it to every company to implement these things because bottom line, right? And public companies in particular, like I've said before, I want every single one of my enemies. I definitely think that they should all implement AI at every level of their business. Do that. Every one of my enemies, you should definitely do that. Right? Go on. It's going to be an epic failure, and we're seeing that that it is failing, and hilariously, like it's not outside the bounds of possibility that you could see one of the fangs just go like an Enron situation because they've overinvested in AI, right? And I said that before any of this. Like this, I said this like a year ago. That like when Microsoft first like went hard on OpenAI. And there was all that stuff with when Altman was ousted and there was all that shit internally. Remember that? How many days ago was that? It was a couple of hundred. We've got 1,400 days of what Trump did to go, if not longer. And then after that, it's 4 more years of what that how we fix what that fuckwit did. Anyway, if it's even fixable at all. But anyway. But when Microsoft sort of invested in OpenAI the way they did, I was like, well, interesting. Like, you know, like it's not outside the realm of possibility that they could fucking implode. Again, Microsoft is diversified enough that I don't think it's a problem, especially, I mean, if they end up being the ones that buy TikTok. Oh my God! Microsoft fund the Australian Strategic Policy Institute. And I guess who's been doing the papers on TikTok? Oh my God. What coincidence. Isn't that weird? How, like, the two companies that are in consideration for buying TikTok are, like, Microsoft and Oracle. Aren't they, like, funding the people who do the research about TikTok being a national security threat? That's weird. I should look into that. So should you. Anyway, being funny. Anyway, drink time. I've probably made no fucking sense for most of this, but we're having fun. I'm having fun anyway. So, you know, it is funny, like, watching this because all of a sudden, like, you saw the markets just bloodbath. And I knew this was coming. Like, it's not out. It's just, it was unsustainable, right? And everyone looks ridiculous. And it's funny to me. It's great. I love it. All of these tech bros are like, it's all dog eat dog. Get used to it. Anarcho-capital. Isn't it funny how the anarcho part of anarcho-capitalist only applies when you're on top? When you're like the top dog. I didn't realize this was a racist joke when I wrote it. And then I realized it was a racist joke because it was but I doubled down and was like, no, I'm sticking with the joke because it's funny. But I was like, turns out that like everyone's pro dog eat dog until they find out they're the weaker, tastier dog, right? And it's like, that was a bit racist because of the whole dog eating thing. So I probably shouldn't write that, but I didn't mean it that way, but I'm sticking to it. I'm aware of my own contribution, but you got to weigh it up. The joke was worth like anyway. But it's like, oops, sorry, I just knocked my thing. But it is funny to watch because everyone's in a cope session now, and it's like, But, and this is my point. This morning I woke up to the BBC saying, because I've obviously read a bit about this before, and I was like, all right, Australian think tank says we shouldn't trust DeepSeek. Oh, okay. Yep, okay. SBS.com.au. Oh, we should not trust this thing. Ah, okay. Who said it? Oh, the Australian Strategic Policy Institute. How odd. Went to their website and I was like, this is odd. Yeah, well, how odd this is. Look, they're saying the stuff. Hang on, let me scroll up. I'm not used to sharing screens at the moment. Oh no, what are the odds of this? Look, it's a strategic and geopolitical shock. Oh, fuck me. Come on, dickhead. Where are we? First, the West's clearest strategic rival is genuine peer competitor in the technologies. Hang on. Oh, we go. Mark Andreessen, the influential Silicon Valley entrepreneur and venture capitalist, called the DeepSeek announcement a Sputnik moment and one of the most amazing, impressive breakthroughs in AI. And you know what that means? Money. Money. Money, please. And they're like, but the thing about the Sputnik moment, if you know your history of like that, which is that actually meant that the government developed NASA. They didn't hand it to Mark Andreessen and Mark Zuckerberg and Sam Altman and Microsoft and Elon Musk. They built a government program, okay, not a private for-profit program, and that's that. Remember, don't let them fuck you with that. But look, so what does the West need to do? The West, see, again, this whole Orientalist shit. What does the West need to do now? Above all, we need to stop underestimating our major strategic competitor. If hundreds of billions of dollars isn't enough investment, we either need to redouble our efforts or work more smartly, bringing governments and the private sector together. What's another word for that? I think it starts with F or O. I think O is the word for that. And we're across trusted nations. Oh, fucking, my scroll's not working. Trusted, this computer can't handle anything. I can't stream like a normal person staring a screen. It just fucking shits itself. Sorry. There's not much I can do about it until I can afford to buy a new MacBook Pro for and do the computer shuffle downwards. But across trusted nations, as we're doing with AUKUS security technologies, one of which, of course, is AI. So it's like these guys, right? But then, where are we? Australia needs a stronger artificial intelligence strategy. Money. But then you see, this is what they did with TikTok. TikTok is snooping on users. Why don't they seem to care? Like, despite numerous scandals that we invented and calls for it to be banned, that we push, that they're currently under investigation by the US Justice Department because the think tanks asked them to. And then it's like, despite whatever substantive shit you might have with TikTok, again, I've got, there's some things that are like genuine criticisms, and most of it is around how, my concern around TikTok is the use of dark patterns, but they're obviously unhealthy. It's like a drool factory, right? But again, it's not. It's what substantive criticism you make, not necessarily what it's about, right? I'm not an idiot. I don't throw the baby out with the bathwater. And I also know that the enemy of my enemy is not always my friend. And that's something that people need to learn, is that regardless, they're not my ally. Okay, these guys are just trying to fucking, loot the treasury at every turn and get funding for their stupid fucking bombs and shit. They don't care. They just want, they're basically trying to financially benefit from a scare campaign and red scare bullshit. Okay, they're not my ally, regardless of what I may think about TikTok or social media regulation in general. It's like we're not allies at all. Okay. why you do. I'm actually writing this as well, which is, you know, yes, you can be wrong for the right reasons and right for the wrong reasons, but, you know, if you're wrong, you're still wrong, and you still got to own that part, you know. So anyway, but they start this. They go, oh, look, the most recent controversy, as reported by the Sydney Morning Herald, right, revolves around the app employing a tracking tool, the TikTok Pixel. It's like Facebook has the same pixel. It's so stupid. Anyway, it's just analytics. But anyway, so it's like that. But then you see Sydney Morning Herald, right? Look, mass breach of privacy. Some of Australia, long piece, okay, in 2023. As reported in the Sydney Morning Herald, look, and then look down here. Where is it? Sorry, I haven't got the highlighting. I haven't got the real good capacity to highlight. It's not very streamlined when I share a screen, unfortunately. So they said, as reported by the Sydney Morning Herald, and then the Sydney Morning Herald say, where are we? Down here. Jocelyn Kang, technical specialist at the Australian Strategic Policy Institute, said data from a tracking pixel could be aggregated across websites, apps, and social media platforms. And she said, yeah. So again, as reported by the Sydney Morning Herald, who quoted us. We're quoting them who quote us. And what we'll do is we'll put it on Wikipedia and make it true. But then you've got, you know, the think tank behind Australia's changing view of China. Okay. This is these guys. All right. So again, these are the guys who are currently running the narrative in Murdoch Press, particularly, about DeepSeek. And you go, I don't, and then because you're a fucking racist, you go, I don't trust it. I just don't trust that Chinese. I don't trust them. And that's how they win. They win because over the last several decades, they've run this systematic campaign where they scare you and you don't know what's true anymore. Now, what's true and what's not, I don't have the resources to know that. But what I can do is look at the interests and the pattern of behavior and what has happened, which was that basically what we're looking at right now is anti-competitive behavior. We're looking at like 5 companies who run the world and securitize anyone who disrupts them in the market or tries to compete with them. Like you can't just, if there's one thing you should take away is there's no such thing as just build your own startup anymore. You can't, because they'll just do this. And if they can't gobble you up, which is what Facebook and Meta have done, they just gobble you up. Okay. So if you're if you're an engineer, here's my business advice: make a product and sell it to them for a chunk of change, move on, build another product, take a chunk of change, build another product, take a chunk of change, just sell your code to them for money, whatever. Okay. That should be your exit strategy. Make money. Like that's our strategy at the moment. Build a thing so we can buy a house. That's it. Enough for a house. Flip it. Don't think that you can actually enter the market. That's the state of the market right now. And if you think otherwise, I think, you know, you're buying a bit of Kool-Aid. Okay. And or if okay, that's not fair. I'm talking about your everyday person. If you've been working in tech and you have a pot of money to be able to withstand the 5 years that it takes to create a startup, and you can, you know, without investment or anything like that, or you've got investment to, you know, you've got your seed funding and all that sort of stuff, then you might make it. But I'm saying that you're going, that if they can't buy you, they will wreck you. Okay. They're doing that about like, so, and even now, like if you try to even promote Mastodon, even Substack. I mean, I'm not a fan of Substack, but Mastodon, pixel-fed alternatives, you know, Reddit have banned a lot. Sorry, blah 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 beep 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 blah. Robot broken blah blah beep 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 beep. Robot broke. Large parts of Reddit are banning X links because, you know, obviously not for competitive reasons, but, you know, ideological ones, but still, you know, like they have that power. The fact that each platform who controls information has the ability to suppress whatever information from either a competitor or from someone who's inconvenient or from someone they don't like, from whether you're an activist, like being pro-Palestine, whether you are, you know, they have, it's not so much the substance of the actual individual action, like banning a Twitter link or suppressing protest. It's not about the issue. It's about this concentration of power and the fact that like 5 people control the flow of information in the whole world. Okay. And that's bad because you don't have access to information. Like I'm the first person, anyone who pretends that they actually know about China, even if you've got it, like, even if you're I don't think that that's fair. I think that you're being dishonest with yourself about how propagandized you are. We don't know because they've got a stronghold on our media. Okay. Not the, like, again, you just got to learn to be focused on interests and who benefits from everything. And again, that doesn't mean to just dismiss everything. I'm just saying to always be, I mean, one thing that I do, I think the balance for me is to not instantly disbelieve it, but park it in a way where I know the biases and interests behind the information that I'm getting. Because one thing, well, the right wing do this particularly well, is omission, like lie by omission. So they'll tell you something that's true and something that can be verified as true, but they leave out the context. They edit it, they take it, they clip it out of context. They spin it. It's all these sorts of tactics, right? Propaganda you know what they are. You're not 5 years old. You know what I'm talking about. So that's how, I consume media with hefty doubt. And that's even having, done this at university level. Like I've watched the universities over the years become tools of these institutes. Like, because my postgrad was in public policy. And I did it in 2006. And it's vastly different now because I actually went into, because I was going to, I had to do, I wanted to convert and to do stuff, whatever. And I went to look at what had happened to that master's degree between 2006 and 2000 and when I was, because I was going to either do PhD or do law, okay, I was trying to figure out what I was going to do next in order to retrain, and I was looking to do my PhD. But in order to do my PhD, I needed to do some makeup stuff and kind of shuffle around my previous masters in order to get into the PhD program. So I was like, okay, what's the quickest way to do that? That is to go and get another master's in international relations with a bunch of whatever. So I looked at that international relations master's. That was then superseded by a master of security studies. So everything became about security, international security, and it became extremely commercialized. Okay. And it was obvious that this was, there's no such thing as fucking Marxist universities. Let's put it that way. It was very neoliberal in the way that it approached things. And so that real shift, having done political education across sort of when did I graduate? My undergrad? 2002. So 24 years. So, I've done over that 22 years, I've seen a massive shift away from actual academic pursuits to training effectively, like corporate fucking cops and spooks and like everything like that, right? You can't actually do a pure excuse me. I shouldn't do that. I love that. Let's choke on the dick. You can't get like a pure sociology or pure anthropology master's degree anywhere. All master's degrees right now are either like MBA, security studies, master of public administration, MBA, that sort of stuff. They're all commercially oriented and focused. You can't do a pure theoretical master's anymore at the universities here anyway. There's a couple somewhere. There's a couple elsewhere over east, but like you can't. It's very, very difficult to get a pure theoretical postgrad education now, and that's been a massive shift. Okay, it's just purely commercial, and that's why I don't know why I went on that point. That's right. So even for me, where I'm pretty confident in my ability to sort of, I know more than most. I'm not confident to tell you that I am certain about China at all, about the information I get, especially based on the fact that I've been approached by various like propaganda, like manipulators and background people, and to spread bullshit in the offer of like, oh, you can, we could give you a book deal and you could run for office, and if you work with us, we can do as for treats. I was like, nope, no, thank you. I've had that happen to me a few times, and I've obviously gone on and seen other streamers and influencers and various other people sort of grow their channels because they have been willing to do that. That's been educational. People who just run with it, and they run with that propaganda, and their channel explodes. And then again, I'm not saying that I'm particularly like great or anything. I'm just saying that I haven't grown for a number of reasons. That is one factor. But you can obviously see that there are people sort of behind the scenes encouraging and discouraging and sort of, reinforcing various narratives at every level of our communication. Okay, so whether it's an algorithm, whether it is like a direct sponsorship, whether it is an indirect sponsorship, whether it is exposing dipshits and dumb shits like Joe Rogan and Bridget Fetisi and Barry Weiss and all those people, where they're gullible and not bright, and you just you use that to get your stuff forward because they just take what you're saying on face value, because that you're exploiting their biases and ignorance to spread narratives, right? It's you've got all of these layers of how this stuff works. I don't know. Nobody should ever be confident that they know what's true. It's in that landscape, and that's why you just got to try to get some idea of what's been left out, what's been included, what the interests are, who funds stuff, and try to just get. And that's not even media and civic literacy. This is like advanced media literacy stuff. Like, you got to really understand, like, here's one example, like you've got your propaganda model, right, from Noam Chomsky and stuff, but you've also got other theories. And in international relations, there's a thing called securitization theory. And what's his name? Barry something. It's irrelevant, doesn't matter. The Copenhagen School of something. Anyway, but it's called securitization theory, and what it describes is a process of how you can use people's fear and use as a communication strategy to basically get increased resource allocation, and by declaring it a sort of existential threat, emergency measures, all that sort of stuff. Like, you'll see that play out. Once you understand what securitization is, you'll start to see how, when people are framing things as existential threats all the time, it's because they're screeching to try and get more money, power, treats, whatever, okay, influences. Like, people are more drawn to things that are a threat and an existential threat than they are to sort of, a calm, pragmatic plan reality, okay? Doesn't help when you got a fucking professional fuckwit in the White House. But basically, so that securitization is a process where you sort of use soft power to influence those who even innocently, okay, are just trying to do the right thing. And this is this is very core to security theory and sort of that, hang on, not security theory, the stuff that you are in international relations. Securitization theory fits in sort of that studies around like how power operates and especially how like hard and soft power operates, right? So what you've got with securitization theory is that you can engage in speech acts, if I remember correctly. So speech acts. So whether that's, that's like the process where they use the word actors a lot. So actors. Okay, sorry, my brain is being boring. It's like I'm struggling to get my words out. So what they do, hang on, have I got dot points about this? I don't, it's all in the brain. Yeah, so actors, so political leaders, stakeholders, corporations, usually political actors traditionally, but now, I think there's one and the same, right? ASPI, are a non-state actor. They used to be a state actor. Yeah, anyway. But they declare something as an existential threat. So that's sort of step one. Declare something as an existential threat. Now, you'll see that throughout this sort of anti-woke stuff. You'll see this through even the Democrats engage in it, like lefties engage in it. So you declare something as an existential threat, okay, and you start communicating that message, okay. And so so what it does is you target you run a campaign. So you run the media and you run with a narrative that sort of positions something as an existential threat. In this case, Chinese technology, okay. And you'll see it as a process. It's an ongoing process that you can see over and over again, which is that they're securitizing China. And that's why when Ryan Grimm was like something, I said, they're just going to securitize it. That's what they're going to do. They're just going to securitize the whole thing. They're going to create a moral panic about it. There is a xenophobic sort of moral panic that people fall for because they've done it with TikTok. It's a pattern of behavior. And you just go, oh, yeah, I know what they're going to do because I know what the next step is, which is that then they'll go, oh, okay. And then they get more money. It's not tricky. But the people who accept it go along with something that on its face is probably unfair. So I'm waffling, but so even if you are like an anarcho-capitalist, okay, all right, and you think that just pure free market and you go, nope. So with this DeepSeek AI thing, most people would, an ordinary person, even like pro-capitalist, let's just assume everyone is like, okay, that's the free market, bro. Okay, they just were better at it. Cop it. You cop it on the chin, okay? And this is how you get someone who would say that to suddenly go, no, accept this, all right? Because most people who are pro-capitalist, okay, would go, well, that's just the free market, bro. Cope and seethe, do better. Like that's the actual laissez-faire position on this, okay? But how you could persuade and nudge someone who has that view into thinking and consenting to something that goes against that belief, which is we need to stop them and use the state to stop them and any means necessary, and you sort of drift into this oligarchic overreach, is what you do is you create this, or manufacture, amplify, concoct some research. I don't know, again, I can't verify that. It's not my job. But I can just, tell you what the interests are and what the pattern of behavior is, and that ASPI are not the fucking source of anything. That they identify that shit as an existential threat. Then they convince you that you go, oh, well, I'm definitely for, like, same thing with, I'm for free speech, except that thing. And that's what, you see, I am against genocide, except that thing. So what you do is you create these things as existential threats. So like whether it's, terrorism, whether it is, Hamas, whether it's even Nazis, like people do use the Nazi Germany as a sort of, existential threat. This sort of, I would argue that a lot of what we're seeing now with the normalization of fascism is that people have been screaming fascism for so long that it's been diluted to the point where people don't fucking realize that it's actually here now, and that will continue to happen. It's like, but basically what's happening here with China and Chinese tech is that they're just using people's biases and fears about China to securitize them so that they can get an edge in the market. So tech, as non-state actors, theoretically, in an oligarchy, they're not state non-state actors are. Sorry, I meant government and corporate partnerships. It's win-win. Everyone wins. Stakeholder capitalism, everybody. Works wonders. It's great. Anyway, I love how people just go, oh no, but my stakeholder capitalism is good because I'm just engaging with stakeholders It's not oligarchy, it's a corporate government partnerships. Anyway, getting through that is very difficult. But you've got a securitizing actor. So the entity makes a securitization move. So that's either government, usually political, but in this case, I would say that they have so much power that it doesn't matter. Okay. They've got the object of that thing. So China being the object, Chinese tech. So, the referent object. So what's being protected? So what's being protected is our data, our democracy, our liberal democracy, the West, and the West means white people, Christians, those things are being protected, right? But also society, environment, whatever. No one gives a fuck about the environment anymore. And what they do is they try to create that threat in your mind, which is like that China's spying on you and out to control you and out to do all of this stuff. So that even if you're like a pro-capital, like pure supply and demand, let the market, laissez-faire economics guy that goes, oh, it's just capitalism. It terminates your thought because you go, but there's an existential threat. So I'm throwing all of my values out and like letting those guys like fix it. Money, give them money. Okay, so that's how it works. That's how securitization theory kind of works. I butchered it. We're having fun. I'm relaxing. They're not all winners. We're having fun. Where's my dick? So what they do is, it's so easy now with all of the corporate media, the way that the kind of information crisis that we've got with social media, where, remember, a handful of people control what you see, the flow of information. If you think you know the truth about something, you fucking don't. And if you are one of those I know the truth cookers, you definitely don't know the truth. You're being fed Q shit because they want to radicalize you into violence. You're a soldier for fascism. Knock it off. Get your head straight. Okay? This insane cooker shit. This MAGA stuff infecting everyone. And it's like, you don't know the truth. It's not a conspiracy. There's no conspiracy. There's interests, of course. Like, and these interests are the things that I'm talking about, but it's not some great big fucking globalist thing that's come. It's money. It's capital. Isn't it funny how these guys never think it's like, oh, it's capitalism and oligarchy. It's always, oh no, Elon Musk is the little guy. Fucking idiots. It was an autism salute, Your Honor. I had a good joke this morning, and I said that I called my friend who's got a almost non-verbal autistic son, and turns out he can only say 14 words. Working on it. Edgy. That's me. But you've got this thing where it's but this is how they it's been done since the beginning of time. Like, they're basically trying to colonize the world more, and like not even figuratively, but literally. Like, look at the Greenland shit. Like, this is not a joke. I'm surprised he hasn't started talking about like Australia becoming part of the United States. That's a matter of time, and I worry that we're probably going to fucking do it. That's my fear. Is that we're actually going to say, yeah. It's like, oh my God, at least I get to vote. That would be a good thing. See, the only reason that they don't want us to be, because they know that the irony is that if you let Canada and Australia be part of America, that the Republicans would never win again, ever. Because the rest of the world votes left, right? But they would not vote for the Republicans. They think Trump is batshit. They think everyone's batshit. And for what you'll say about Australia, yes, we're conservative in some ways, but it's very much in a traditional Keynesian conservative. It's not left-wing enough for any lefty, but we do have our political differences are not so much ideological, but in terms of it's not even around class lines, because we're pretty egalitarian. I don't think our political culture is different and more complex than the United States, and more complex than a lot of Australians think as well. People are usually quite sensible. That's changing. It's changing. But you can usually reason with people with facts still. Yeah, it's Americans are just fucking delusional and they're detached from reality. You can have a reality-based conversation with Australians, and Australians often know that they're ignorant and they don't know stuff, whereas Americans think they're experts in everything, because whether they are or not, like that's a difference here. So whether they try to import these culture wars here and it succeeds, it hasn't succeeded to date. I hope, as much as I don't like the suffering that's happening in the United States, like I hope it continues into our election so people get a taste of what, the end result of this fucking culture wars bullshit actually results in. And, but, yeah, we don't know. But anyway, they control the flow of information. Elon Musk controls this shit. They just buy, I've got to read, look at this, there's this stuff that's coming out, like with Greg Palast, whose work I've followed over the years. I read his book back in, early noughts. Can't remember what it was called, but it was very good. Was it Culture of Fear? No, that was Barry Glassner. But Greg Palast, yeah, anyway, he wrote a book. And he's been doing some investigative work about like vote purging and stuff, and like that they actually fucking did steal the election. But, I'm not going to, but there's no point. Not going to be able to do that. They're not going to be able to pursue that fucking route. But probably. I don't doubt it. But yeah, I mean, I just be aware of this whole propaganda war that you're seeing, and that it's not the first time. And the one thing about this stuff is that once you see the patterns, again, almost Marxian of me to suggest that that history has patterns, and when you pay attention to that, you can improve. There are lessons from history. And it comes down to sort of, whatever. And I'm not going to go down I'm not going to go on that tangent. I think I'm running out of steam. It's an hour and a half. I've hit my point. But I think you should be very skeptical of this narrative. Like watching it just spread. I mean, it is very funny watching OpenAI, potentially implode. And I've said this, it's not outside the realm of possibility that a FANG company could implode because they overinvested in AI. Don't think it would be Microsoft, but it could, because Microsoft have diversified. But what you can do is maybe rig it so that Microsoft acquires TikTok and that keeps them fucking afloat. I'm just saying, these are powerful people and powerful forces, and I find it concerning that people just take everything on face value. And it's just even the BBC were like, Australia says not to trust it. Yeah, who's Australia? Oh, the Australian Strategic Oh, okay, them again. All right. The people who fed that story to the Australian, which is owned by Rupert Murdoch, whose whole fucking... And also, let's not forget, Rupert Murdoch, it's not even about interests, even though it is ultimately about those interests, but Rupert Murdoch hates China because China wouldn't let him enter their market. He's got a personal beef with China as well. So it's, you got to really be careful about information these days, and also just keep remembering that your feed is not your, some people want you to see that. If you are seeing it, people want you to see it. Because if it was, and just fuck. People, and this goes back to my last stream where it's people are just so uncritical about these algorithms and what they're being fucking spoon-fed and being radicalized, self-radicalizing without even bothering you. It's really important that if you take something that changes especially if it changes your mind or is asking you to shift your thinking or politics or vote or anything, especially as we're coming into an election here, it's really important that if someone is making a claim politically, that you check. That's a minimum. And again, I have lost hope in people doing that. Okay, so I'm not in journalism. I don't consider myself media. I'm not great at telling, you know, this is just where I come and talk about a specific thing and see what sort of lands around it. And all I can say is be suspicious of everything. Like, especially, I mean, God, if you're on X and you think that any of that is even remotely credible, any of it, the X journalist, any of that stuff, then you need therapy. It's like this like I'm watching it, and I've watched him like this, and he's fucking getting the brain rot. And I've been thinking about reaching out, but I don't know if it's my place. But because I just know that what happens is they just yell at you because, you know, he's being dragged into a fucking cult online. And he's like defending the Nazi salute of Elon Musk, owns a Tesla. Okay? And it's like, is it my place? Because I also know that it blows back on me. So it's really hard. Like, I probably will reach out because I wouldn't feel right if I didn't. But, you know, watching this stuff with like the trans women in women's prisons thing, I didn't co-sign that shit. And now I'm watching women that I know and defended cheering that shit on. It's like, I regret any role I had in anything to do with that shit. Like, I did not, it was way more innocent than any of this shit. And I've watched so many women just, like, I can't believe that they are supporting this stuff. It's fucking embarrassing, actually. But, you know, I've got to reckon with that. And, you know, I think it's easier to just go along with it. Because again, you know, than to actually go, fuck, I fucked up, man. You know, like, yeah. So that's difficult to do too. Anyway, I've meandered. I'm going to go. I got shit to do. I shall talk soon. Tuesday. Have a good one. Thanks for watching. Bye.